anyone who feels comfortable doing it, if you could possibly record this Q&A on your phone, and because we're not recording it, I'd love to share with my partners in New Zealand, and we don't have a camera of our own. So my Twitter handle is @BarrSteve, so it's my last name and then my first name. Send me a note or send me a recording, anything like that. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, well, we're so thrilled to play the film, and I just kind of wanted to start out by asking the seed and the spark for this whole story.
Sure, yeah, this is an unusual situation for me as a producer. I came onto this project in post. So I knew Hayden and Simon, who you might, if you remember back in the movie, there's the fisherman. Genevieve, she was crazy, she was awesome. That's Simon. So the two filmmakers are actually two characters in the movie. And Hayden had written this screenplay, and I'm primarily a screenwriter, and it's got time travel in it, and time travel screenplays are terrible. And this one actually hung together. Actually, it's like a double loop that both loops actually make sense. And like I often do, he wrote it, and it was makeable. I'm like, just go make it. Don't try to raise money. Don't just go. And he said, okay, great, like they always say. And a few months later, he's like, okay, so we have a rough cut. Do you wanna look? And it turns out he hadn't done any contracts with anyone. He had no idea what to do with the movie after it was done. They just went and made a thing. So myself and a mutual friend of ours named Kelly Kilgore came on to produce it. But those guys are really practically the producers of the actual movie, would be Hayden and Simon.
Wow, well that's fantastic. Sometimes you just gotta do it, and that's impressive. Did you see big changes in terms of going from the script to that rough cut edit?
Yeah, one of the real benefits of having a crew of 3 people is that you can do reshoots. So over the course of 5 or 6 edits, we went and shot some extra little bits, like some of this last slow motion stuff at the end, that's reshoots. And there's some connective tissue in the middle just to make sure the emotional points are clear. The one big thing we had to do in post was, because it was one guy, Simon, operating the camera as well as putting body mics on people, all the sound was terrible. So almost every line in that movie is looped. I don't know, you might have been able to tell at some points, but most of it hopefully it snuck by because it was all, the production sound was not very good. So, word to the wise, have a crew of 4.
Oh man, that's so impressive. So kind of in that editing process, so you're saying in the script, it was pretty well written in there, all of the different weaving in and out. For the editing, were there pieces that were really tightened up or changed, I guess, a little bit more?
Yeah, definitely. It's always there's a bell curve of the audience. Like I would love to, let's go have a drink after this and tell me where you figured out various things. Because you want to set clues that are in hindsight obvious, but not obvious at first, right? And each of the things that are written on the window make sense in more than one way. And so having all of that work and yet not be, as soon as you see it the first time, you're like, oh, I understand what that thing means, but then you get it to have a second time. All that was sort of planned out. But we had to do, after Hayden and Simon and Kelly and I watched it a few times, we knew all the tricks. And so we had to have fresh eyes whenever we could to see, okay, when did you get this? When did you know that Genevieve is Jen and Eve? And all that stuff, One thing that surprised me is that people don't seem to mind that Hayden or Dan, the character, is in some ways a really passive protagonist. He's just a tool of fate that just keeps throwing him in people's faces and making him do stuff, but he helps people fall in love, so let's go.
I think his performance in particular, it's just so impressive because you do really, you're captured by him throughout, and it's a driving force. I don't want to hog this up here, so I want to make sure, I know we probably have questions out here. Anyone, first question for you? Way back there.
Sorry, can you?
How did you pick New Zealand as a location?
Well, it happened to be that's where the filmmakers are, so that made it really simple to not have to fly them from Australia. So yeah, I'm an American, but I live in New Zealand now. Hayden and Simon and Kelly are all born and raised New Zealanders. And it's really, in many ways, it's a love letter to Wellington. You all want to come move to my city now, don't you? Isn't that a beautiful place? Any producers in the thing, come talk to me about incentives. I can get you in that place really easily. It's a New Zealand thing. I should probably mention Hayden's film school. He's an actor. Most of his film school he was the stand-in for Martin Freeman on The Hobbit for 2.5 years. So he would stand on set and watch these world-class filmmakers all making movies, and instead of just eating craft services and getting fat, he paid attention and watched and that's how he learned how to make movies.
That is amazing.
Isn't that cool?
Other questions out there? Yes. How much experience did the cameraman actually have? Because it was unbelievable.
You're looking at it. He's by trade, he's a director, and he makes his money as an animation supervisor at Weta, which is the big special effects, Weta Digital, which is the special effects company in New Zealand. He doesn't want to be a DOP in his career, he just happens to be really good at it. That's his camera, it's an FS7. If anybody cares about camera stuff, it's an FS7 with prime lenses. And it's almost all, this is natural light. A lot of it happens to be at magic hour because that's just when they got off work. And then the insides are all practicals.
Other questions? Yeah.
Was there ever a version in which Richard reaches the force?
Yes. But, in the, people talk about the emotional roller coaster, right? We needed a down moment. This whole thing, the theme of the movie is all about the importance of human connection. And Richard had his opportunity and he failed his opportunity to go and find her. And so we wanted that to be an object lesson to Hayden, to don't fail the opportunity. If you say Hayden, it's Dan, is the character. Don't fail the opportunity. So we wanted that down moment. So about at the same time, Dan loses his girlfriend and Richard loses the love of his life at about the same moment in the movie. So that gives us our down that we can then build out of. It's interesting. A big part of my job is to analyze screenplays, and when I read it, I read a lot of screenplays, and this one had some technical flaws to it. Hayden hasn't written a whole lot, but the central idea and the emotions of it played so clearly that the flaws didn't really matter, And honestly, that's the big thing. That's what our job is as filmmakers. I don't know how many of you are filmmakers. Our job is to manipulate emotions. That's the entirety of the contract. And so what all the other technical stuff we do in the filmmaking technique and the structure breaks and all that stuff is just making people feel shit. And the screenplay made me feel things as I read it, and most don't anymore because I'm pretty jaded by now. And once it made me feel things, that's what I could focus in on. I'm like, I felt this here, I think you wanted me to feel this here, and I didn't quite, but maybe think about this. And so he just follows emotion. He's working on his next 2 projects now. He's on like his 4th or 5th draft of the next 2 projects that I'm hoping to help him produce. And it's that same process. If he gets the emotion clearly, all of the other practical, technical stuff just falls into place. Yeah.
Do you guys have any distribution plans for the film after this?
Plans? What are these plans of which you ask? Right, so the reason I love the Austin Film Festival, this is my favorite film festival, but the practical reason why I was able to get my ass over here is AFM in a couple weeks. So I'm going to the American Film Market. I'm trying to find the primary plan would find a sales agent who can go find the distributors for us. Otherwise, I'll just go distributor saying, hey, we have a movie, it's cool, you want to see it? Yeah. And mostly it's about recouping from this one, but it's more about setting up the next. Because these guys are super talented. And, they should, the 4th movie movie is going to be 7 times as good as this one. So I just want to help them keep cycling, you know.
Having been in New Zealand for a while now, how do you think this fits into New Zealand cinema right now? And do you think this is indicative of what New Zealand cinema is going to be like?
That's a really good question. How many hours do we have? I think New Zealand cinema has gotten its own brand over time because it's a very small place and they make a lot of movies for the number of population they have. And over a little bit, and also the fact that the Film Commission of New Zealand was the designated sales agent, and so they started to be known as New Zealand Films. And the term that's often used is the cinema of unease. And so quite often you watch a New Zealand film, it's naturalistic, it's very gritty. Often there's a child who's in danger because that's one of the easiest ways to raise stakes immediately. So these are Whale Rider or Once Were Warriors or Boy or Hunt for the Wilder People, which is out recently. I think Hunt for the Wilder People is a good indication that we're moving out of just wanting people to feel really kind of icky in a movie. If anybody's seen Wilder People, it's a really, really charming movie, and the guy who directed that is now doing the next Thor movie, a guy named Taika Waititi. And so this, I think, is a movement out of necessarily people watching a movie to feel educated, and when they leave, they feel a little bit heavy. And now we're seeing a group of younger filmmakers wanting people to leave movies feeling pretty upbeat and peppy, which I hope is what you got out of this by the end of it. But it's really interesting that, you know, you can say French cinema, you get an idea of, you know, cheese and body odor, but the New Zealand cinema has an idea, but there are dozens and dozens of different kinds of taste in New Zealand. Peter Jackson was a splatter horror guy for a while, and all of those different tastes are still in existence. It's just a little hard to push through that system sometimes.
Yeah, I enjoy the film, and I like films that kind of leave the audience asking questions and as they're watching it rather than explain it. Does it, when you move over to the film market, does it concern you that it's sort of a mixed genre and you're
Yes, hugely.
Yeah.
Yes. So this is one of the things, if anybody who's a producer here or a filmmaker here, this is one of the things that filmmakers, creatives, and producers always butt heads about, is before you even start the film, the producers are like, how are we going to sell this? What is this? How do we put it in a box? And creative people are like, fuck boxes. Right? But this is sort of an object lesson in that. These are a couple of filmmakers, really talented creative guys who want to do something cool, and it's a cool movie. And yet when I go and talk to sales agents, okay, what's a comparable movie to this? There's some time travel, but it's not really about the time travel. It's not a comedy per se, but if you call it a drama, people think it's grimmer than it is. And it's all, you know, it's looping together. So it's a little bit of a tough sell. But that's my job now. They did a cool thing. I just got to figure out how to tell people about it, honestly.
I think we have time for one more here.
Psychological rom-com. The thing about rom-com is it has a certain structure that you want. Yeah. So we're thinking at the moment a light drama with a light romance with time travel. Light indie romance with time travel. Not quite mumblecore. It's not hipster, but you can see hipster from where we stand, and something, you know. So it takes it's a longer conversation than just a log line. You know? Well, thank you. That's what I'll just say. I'll watch it. Hi, sales agent. This is excellent. That is the box. That's it. Thank you.
All right, well, let's give a round of applause.
Thanks, everybody. Let's go to the Bristol and have